longer the owner of the people. You're just the registered keeper. Yeah? Your ownership gets taken away. So
here we are, we're in the Occupy London protest at St Paul's. I'm here with Tammy and Akira, and I'm just going to ask them just a couple of questions. Tammy first, you said that you're a Christian, is that right? Could you just tell me kind of why you're here and what it is the message you're trying to get across to people?
Yeah, you know, I came across the Occupy movement starting with Wall Street, and I got interested in that. So I followed the Wall Street movement, I listened to their issues, you know, the fact that we need a better democracy, and that's a global thing as much as it is here. The fact that the gap between the rich and the poor is just way too wide, it's just huge. The fact that, you know, we need social equality. There's so much injustice going on all levels, it needs to be dealt with. And just tons of other things like that, you know, and also the banks and the roles they play in the problems that are created, the debt crises, the whole situation, you know. So when I saw through other groups that it was happening in London as well, I came up on the 15th to check it out, see what's going on, and I decided to stay, and I've been here ever since.
So, how long have you been here?
Since the 15th.
15th
of October.
Oh right, it's okay.
Since the start, yeah.
Okay, so that's about 5-6 weeks now.
Yeah,
isn't
nearly
it?
6 weeks now.
So how do you feel your Christian faith relates to kind of you being here as part of this protest?
The issues that are being raised by the camp are very much Christian issues. In all fairness, in the ethics of them, you know, the fact that to take care of the poor is a Christian must. And the social injustices is something that Scripture deals with as well, and you know, so a lot of my Christian morals and beliefs are also reflected in what this Occupy movement worldwide is about. So it's been hard because obviously St Paul's Cathedral, there was a time earlier on when it didn't behave quite in a Christian manner. Not wishing to be offensive about them, but they didn't behave very Christian, which is why we got a big notice, what would Jesus do? And that is, what would he have done? He would have been out.
Is that notice outside here somewhere?
I think it was out there, it's gone now.
Oh, okay.
But, and of course we had Giles Fraser resigned on a moral and spiritual point. Then the church decided that they weren't following legal action. And then they're saying they support our issues, but they're not supporting it very publicly. So this is what we're working on at the minute, trying to get them out and do that in a more public manner. So me and Akira, we're on the church liaison and the interfaith, which means we'll go into the crypt of the cathedral and we'll have meetings with members of the chapter. And we'll try and talk to them about our issues. They're very much interested in their own issues, in all fairness, Akira, but we're trying to steer them around. Now they're saying, yes, we agree with the issues you're raising. We know as Christians we have to find ways to deal with these issues. They say the St Paul's Institute has been discussing these issues for years. Our point now is, that's great. We can discuss it forever and we can work out what's wrong forever and a day. But that discussion doesn't change things. So now we're trying to encourage the church and the Institute to more publicly support our issues. And to try and find solid ways to bring about some changes, because actually, you know, the Church of England it's quite powerful in a lot of ways. It's heavily entrenched in the government, and it's heavily entrenched in the financial life of the city, and even outside of the UK as well. So we're trying.
Okay, brilliant. So moving on to Akira, are you a Christian as well?
I was born into a Christian family, and I've been christened, but I'm open to all faiths because I think they have a similar message. And this is what, and I think this movement has a similar message to a lot of religions. It's the basis of most religions is equality and ethics. So that's the reason I'm here. The reason I'm part of the church liaison is to hopefully remind the church of their ethics, and the clergy have taught that they're split in themselves when they're actually in the church, because the St Paul's Cathedral is a cathedral as a tourist attraction, but it's also a church, and each individual clergy have to find where they lie within that.
Yeah.
And obviously Giles has obviously standing his ground for faith, because he resigned on the issue of eviction, which eviction means violence. It means violence. Let's be very clear about this. And we invited the bishop and the dean to talk in General Assembly, and the question, it was stated by the bishop and by the dean that they didn't want any violent confrontation. And then they were questioned, the dean was specifically questioned, if you're not supporting violence, why are you pressing for eviction? And the dean crumpled with this question, and he walked away, and 2 hours later he resigned. And since then, they've kind of backed off officially from eviction, but they state on their website that they recognise the corporation's right to follow, you know, the corporate thing of eviction. So that is kind of a shadow support.
So they kicked off the sort of legal process, haven't they? But I imagine it's going to be months and months before that reaches a
The London Corporation
conclusion.
has kicked off the legal process, but the church hasn't stood ground, and they're not sending a clear message by actually saying that they acknowledge the corporative rights to act on eviction. So to me, that's still support, and to me, that's still supporting violence. And
because they're not activists, sorry, Karen.
and they have this concept that a concept of Jesus that was presented, that Jesus was inclusive. I agree with that. He was inclusive to all individuals. But then they were putting this idea that Jesus was neutral. Now, Jesus was not neutral. He was proactive, and neutrality is a very, very dangerous thing. As people might remember from the Second World War, the Swiss were neutral, and what that meant was when Jews came to their border, they were turned away, and when they were turned away, they were exterminated. So this is what neutrality does. So for me, I would like to give a message to anyone who thinks that neutrality is actually not damaging, is to really question that idea.
On a slightly different tack, has either of you actually attended a service in St Paul's since you've been here?
Earlier on I did attend a couple, to be honest. And I've been in the church just for quiet prayer time and light a candle and stuff like that. A while ago I went and listened to a sermon. Excuse me, I'm sorry.
Alright.
And they were preaching, I can't remember exactly what, but it was out of the liturgy. I'm really sorry.
You right?
Cheers. It's always London pollution, I'll tell you.
Yeah, do you find that here? Because you've obviously got the road,
I've been nothing but cough since I got here.
the dust and yeah. So I mean, how long do you think you might stay here?
As long as we possibly can, I think.
Okay, yeah.
I think we all realise there's going to come a day when we can't stay here.
Yeah. What do you mean personally, or because you'll be, moved on, or whatever?
Just because we'll be moved eventually. I mean, that is the reality.
Yeah.
I'm really sorry about it.
That's all right. I can cut this bit out. Don't worry.
Well,
can have it as a blue pump.
We're not physically being removed. The only legal action they've got is to remove the tents.
Not
us.
Okay.
We've got a right to be here.
Because you're allowed to protest anywhere, but you're not allowed to just put a tent
up
anywhere.
Permanent structures.
Yeah,
Our tents permanent structures.
Okay.
And the whole premise that we're blocking the highway.
Oh, we're not, clearly.
We're clearly not blocking the highway.
Another thing when it comes to the church was we had a meeting with the bishop, was it last week, Kira, when he came to the yard? And on this subject of how can they get our issues, the ethics and the spiritual issues of it out to the people more. And this, you know, in our sermons we talk about them and we raise them. But you see, they also in their sermons talk about thou shalt not murder. Yet you've got the stock exchange of various banks trading in weapons. So they're hearing thou shalt not murder, but they're not elaborating on it and they're not hitting the core of the problem. And I said, you know, when I first came here, the church bells, because they go all night and all day, they kept me awake and they bothered me, and the noise bothered me and kept me awake. But as time went by, I knew they were there, I heard the noise, but I was desensitised and it stopped affecting me. I said, you need to change the way, even in your sermons, that you're talking to people maybe, because, you know, because your sermons now, your preaching's coming like the church bells. People go in there, they listen to you, they hear the noise, they sit there nodding and yeah, but when they come out, it's not affecting them because they're used to it. You need to find a different way to go about it. So, in the end, the St. Paul's Institute have asked me to write an article on that subject, which is going to be very balanced, and it's not an attack on the church, but it may not be very sort of
Well, I think it kind of sounds like you're just suggesting they get back to basic Christian principles, really.
Exactly. I mean, you know, I also understand in this particular one they're looking at 300 years of tradition, and that's very hard to change that. And although I've been here nearly 6 weeks, it's not long in the grand scheme of things. So I do appreciate it's hard for them, and it's only been 6 weeks out of 300 years of tradition. However, I do think there are certain things they could be doing to show a bit more support. I mean, we've also had a lot of churches of different faiths in different areas around London show support. I think I'd quite like to see some of them bring a tent down and have a visual presence, if I'm honest.
Sounds like a challenge.
It's an open option. I mean, it might be nice to sort of see some of the other churches have their own presence here.
Yeah. So what's the kind of makeup of people here? I mean, I've obviously you've got one Christian, one kind of open to other faiths.
We've got Buddhist here.
Okay.
We've got atheists, we've got agnostics, we've got a little bit of everything going on here. But what's amazing is we can all sit down together. That's why we have the interfaith. We all sit down together and talk about issues. We ain't starting no wars like the different religions and the governments. There's not a war or a fight breaking out. It's about finding a way to democratically sit down and discuss.
Okay.
Doesn't need to be a fight, you know.
Okay. Right. Anything else you want to add at all?
I don't think so.
No? Okay. Well, thank you both very much for that.
No worries, I hope it was helpful.